Well, hey there, freaks. It's your boy Marty here to introduce this rabbit hole recap rip. Matt and I had an early rip today. A little Thursday afternoon surprise for you freaks. And it's brought to you by our good friends at BitcoinBlackFriday.com. Bitcoin Black Friday is a project brought to you to the team behind Bitcoin Magazine in the Bitcoin 2021 conference in LA, which I will actually be speaking at on behalf of Great American Mining. A lot of interesting stuff going on in the mining world. I will be speaking there, Bitcoin 2021 conference in LA, but we're here to talk about Bitcoin Black Friday, which is happening next week. It's a celebration of the growing Bitcoin economy. If you go to BitcoinBlackFriday.com, you're going to find active deals for up to 50% off your favorite Bitcoin gear and other merchants that accept Bitcoin. It doesn't stop there, however. They're going to list 65 charities and more than that you can support with Bitcoin, and a Stacking Sats page where you can learn great ways to earn Bitcoin. If you're a Bitcoin accepting merchant and you're not on the BitcoinBlackFriday.com list, go to BitcoinBlackFriday.com, apply to get on the list with a deal. And if you want to take advantage of the discounts and stacking opportunities, sign up for the email updates at BitcoinBlackFriday.com. The much-awaited Bitcoin Back reward card from Fold is almost here, and the team is teamed up with the Bitcoin Black Friday guys to bring you a special promo for the much-awaited Sat Back card. So if you sign up for early access to the Fold card on BitcoinBlackFriday.com, you're going to be entered in a raffle to win a whole Bitcoin, a whole 100 million sats. So go to BitcoinBlackFriday.com right now. Sign up for the Fold Bitcoin rewards card to enter a chance to win 100 million sats. While you're at it, check out the other great deals from awesome merchants like Cold Card, Unchained, Bitcoin Magazine, MyNode, Kobo Vault, Ledger, Bovada, and many more. Go check them out, BitcoinBlackFriday.com. This rip's also brought to you by our very, very, very good friends at UnchainedCapital.com. UnchainedCapital.com, it's Unchained-Capital.com, but they're not a .com company. There's Unchained Capital, and they're offering you freaks a white glove concierge service that'll take you from zero to a multi-sig vault in no time. Basically, what happens is a $1,500 service. With that, you get 2 hardware wallets, video conferences with the Unchained team to get you comfortable with multi-sig with the Vault product, and to answer any questions you may have. And then you set up your multi-sig vault in which you hold 2 or 3 keys and Unchained holds 1, and you dump $1,000 worth of Bitcoin into the vault. So it's a $1,500 package. If you tell them that TFTC sent you, you're going to get $50 off that package. So it'll be $1,450 for you. On top of that, their collateralized loan program, they're building their OTC desk. If you're a high net worth individual looking to stack sats in bulk, Unchained's OTC desk can do that for you. Check to see if it is available in your state. And go check out all their incredible content. Parker Lewis is Gradually and Suddenly, Drew Bonsal's content on HODL waves and Bitcoin in space, Buck Purley writing about the products being built at Unchained and in the Bitcoin space, what you can do with Lightning, a bunch of other stuff. www.unchained-capital.com. Check it all out. We're going to have a link to the concierge service to go from zero to multi-sig vault in the show notes. This rip was also brought to you by good friends at the motherfucking Cash App. Woo! Cash App, easiest place to stack sats. You can stack sats, send sats, sell sats, receive sats. And we're saying sats because you can make sats the standard within the Cash App. There's no longer stacking fractions of Bitcoin. We're stacking whole sats, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions if you're a baller, hundreds of millions if you're a god. Getting more expensive. One sat is less than $6,000. Or, excuse me. I wish. Well, it is less than $6,000, way less than that. $1 worth of sats is less than 6,000 sats. That's what I wanted to say. And you can stack those sats on the Cash App. On top of that, you can stack slivers of stonks via Cash App investing. If your favorite stonk's a little too expensive, you can buy as little as $1. They've got the Boost program. The Cash App can be your bank account. They're offering account numbers and routing numbers. You can direct deposit your paychecks into the app if you want to. Cut out the dirty banks. And when you download the app, if you haven't already, make sure you use the code STACKINGSATS. It's STACKINGSATS. That's one word, STACKINGSATS, Stacking Sats. You're going to get $10, and $10 is going to go to our good friends at Owls Lacrosse. And I actually have a Caribbean owl here for this owl call down in the Caribbean right now. Use the code Stacking Sats. Download the Cash App and enjoy this rip of Rabbit Hole Recap. I know Matt and I certainly did. Love you, freaks. Rate, subscribe, share, enjoy, live, love, procreate, eat, drink. Enjoy. Matthew, I'm sorry for rushing you today.
Early morning rip.
Early morning rip, trying to get an afternoon beach trip in. Got some time with the wife and child.
Hard to blame you. Got to get the priorities straight.
She made some plans. We got to follow through with them. You know, it's one of those Thursdays.
Dude.
We got a lot to talk about. It's a bullish week. You're drinking before noon.
Well, I'm drinking before noon because it's a bullish fucking week and you having us record before noon. So I feel compelled to, at least I'm being responsible. I'm having a beer because I feel like a whiskey before noon is not the best course of action.
Degenerate.
I'm having an island beer, which is like an ode to you.
Oh, thank you. I'm having a Red Stripe myself.
There you go. Island Beer Day.
There's a few good things coming out of Island Beer Day. I'm going to throw the ads in the beginning. You freaks already know that if you're listening to that. We've got one good shout out that I'm happy about. And you freaks are going to get this episode early. A little Thursday afternoon early surprise. I hope you guys like it. We got a lot to talk about. A lot going on. We're going to start with Clark's dashboard. Going to my bookmarks. Did not have it up like a complete amateur. Current price is $8,024. Sats per dollar is dropping fast, freaks. Currently at $5,548. Market cap all-time high. I don't know about right now, but we've hit it in the last few days. Currently sitting at $334.3 billion. We're at block height 657,678. Excuse me. We are currently 1,554 blocks away from the next difficulty adjustment, which is estimated to be on November 29th, 10 days from today at this point. An upwards difficulty adjustment of 7.37 as estimated right now. Blocks are currently coming in at 9 minutes and 20 seconds. So we had a difficulty adjustment between the last time we met, I believe. 4.8% upwards. Is that correct?
I don't think so.
No. We're only...
Difficulty...
We're less than 500 blocks away. If it's 1,500.
Oh, maybe you're right. Yeah. That was a quiet one.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a quiet one. Upwards of 4.8%, around 5%. Unspec capacity on Samurai. Whirlpool is currently at 1,542.35 Bitcoin, down to static. Correct?
Yeah, but I think like we're quietly at the largest value in terms of dollar value. We're almost at $28 million, just like quietly sitting in the Whirlpool liquidity pool is like kind of this nice, like low-key bullish fundamental to me.
I like that. A lot of low-key bullish fundamentals. A lot going on from all aspects, man. Like today I wrote about a thread I happened upon on my tweet deck. I believe I saw Nick Carter quote tweeting it, talking about GBTC. There's a guy by the name of Cuppy, I believe, describing the GBTC arbitrage play that is probably playing out between institutional investors right now, looking to get access to Bitcoin and then also looking to profit from a trading arbitrage opportunity. GBTC premium right now is currently at about 18%.
And I think BlockFi's been fucking with that shit too.
Yeah, we announced it, right? They bought like a 5% share or something like that.
Indeed. Well, they had to. It's because, it's a publicly traded stock, so they have to disclose once they hit a certain threshold. So they didn't disclose it because they wanted to. They did it because they had just hit that point that they had to. And I think the total assets under management passed over 10 billion this week, which includes like a bunch of their shitcoin funds, but the overwhelming majority is the Bitcoin fund. I'm not sure what the exact breakdown is, but that's a pretty big threshold for Barry Shilbert. Kind of hate to see it, but You know, it is what it is. At least it's not a proof of stake network.
That is true. It is. No, it's an insane amount. So this guy Cuppy was tweeting out a couple days ago on the 17th. GBTC scooped 3,800 Bitcoin off the market, selling another 4 million shares of that particular offering. So if you equate that to like a 5-day week, it's like 19,000 Bitcoin a week if that's consistent volume.
Do you have the full
that GBTC
assets under management for GBTC?
Not at the tip of my fingertips right now. No.
Imagine a proof of stake network with GBTC gobbling that much fucking supply, just like growing and growing. Like the biggest validator is just a regulated publicly traded entity.
Yeah.
Like, how do they think that's a good idea? Like, there's no like.
It's going to happen. Well, it's not going to happen because
crazy pills, man.
Maybe to an naivety. It exists. But I guess like one thing we could talk about is if you get to the bottom of the quote tweet rabbit hole I wrote about today from this guy Cuppy. He wrote a piece a few days ago called "My Favorite Ponzi Scheme." He's basically trying to equate the fact that there's large institutional investors playing this GBTC ARB game to profit, and the fact that MicroStrategy is has taken a lot of supply off the market, and GBTC will continue to as institutional investors take advantage of this arbitrage opportunity. And on top of that, actually use GBTC just to get exposure to Bitcoin because they believe in the fundamentals and the underlying investment thesis. But he seems to believe that Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme because the price is being driven heavily by this institutional gobbling of Bitcoin.
GBTC is a Ponzi maybe, but Bitcoin would be more of a pyramid scheme, right? Because to be a Ponzi scheme, like you need. I think Charles Ponzi was his name. Like you need the dude, like the central entity that that handles it. Like Bitcoin can't be a Ponzi because it's distributed. It'd be more pyramid scheme-esque.
Can you define the difference between a pyramid scheme and a Ponzi scheme?
You know, there's no Charles Ponzi involved, right? It's more distributed. But anyway,
so
there is something interesting there. I mean, like I wonder, like that GBTC arbitrage opportunity, because it trades at a premium, because there's no ETF, it kind of becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy that just creates this upward buy pressure.
Yeah.
But
because you just buy Bitcoin spot, then also buy shares of that illiquid GBTC product, which some people use as a leading indicator for institutional adoption of Bitcoin. That premium goes higher due to the illiquid nature of the product itself, which may be able to drive the spot price higher. Who knows?
But if Bitcoin's a pyramid scheme, then, you know, all financial products are pyramid schemes, and gold is a pyramid scheme. And maybe that's true, but either way, it's just irrelevant.
I think there's good arguments to be made strongly prove that it is not a pyramid scheme. Parker Lewis, shout out Parker, on Gradually Then Suddenly does have a piece, Bitcoin is not a pyramid scheme. I recommend reading that if you do not, but it has fundamental properties that give it utility, like a pyramid scheme. Like you buy shares in a pyramid scheme, like you're usually not able to get utility out of those shares at all. Pretty illiquid, right? Or unless you have like the Nutrisystem, like pyramid schemes and like timeshare pyramid schemes. I guess there's some asset tied to those particular schemes, but I don't think the utility provided by the assets of those underlying schemes, compare.
I think
at all to
it's
Bitcoin.
Just a semantic distinction that doesn't really matter in any kind of real sense of it. Like good money should hold its value and increase in value over time as more people store their wealth in it. Like that's just how good money should work. So if you can call it whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's okay if it's a pyramid scheme.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Even if it is.
If it's, yeah. Yeah. Like now I've got my head running. Like, is it a pyramid scheme or is it a protocol with a network effect that benefits late adopters as that network effect grows.
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
whereas a pyramid scheme, later adopters do not benefit as the network grows. They actually have less of a chance of being able to use their shares or liquidate their shares.
Well, I mean, a pyramid scheme is operating under the idea that there's always someone else that's next, that you're never the last one in, right?
Don't be the last one
in.
in.
No, but like network effect, like, I mean, look, like I said, if you want to argue it one way or the other, like you could argue network effect is like a non-financial pyramid scheme, like if you wanted to, like when you join a network, I'm thinking like something like Signal. You join Signal and it's like invite your contacts, right? It's like a pyramid advertisement. Like you invite your 10 contacts and those 10 contacts invite their 10 contacts.
And make sure they use the code Stacking Sats when they do.
Oh, we have a Signal sponsorship now?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's crazy to think about. No, but I did. Shout out to Cuppy. New follow on Twitter. Put him on my finance and economics list. Seems like he's putting out good data. Interesting insights. Did disagree with that characterization of Bitcoin as a Ponzi scheme, but did appreciate the data that he pulled, really highlighting the amount of supply that's being gobbled up by a lot of these institutional products and corporate treasuries. It's going to be like the liquidity crunch if this trend continues of institutions FOMOing in and corporate treasuries, even though it's small trends right now, a few data points, if it does continue, the liquidity crunch is going to be disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, look, we hear these arguments every time Bitcoin pumps. The last cycle, it was Bitfinex saying that it was the Tether guys pumping, right? And I always go back to the same thing. If it's true, if a few people are able to pump the price of Bitcoin through concerted efforts of trying to push the price up, then that's bullish as fuck, because there's going to be more people in the future that are doing it, right? And so every cycle, to me, even if it is true, even if there's like a small concerted effort to, increase the price of Bitcoin, if they're able to successfully do that, like imagine what the world's billionaires can do. And that's what we're seeing right now, right?
Yeah. It's crazy. Hovering at 18,000 right now. The price rip this week
felt good, man.
What was it last week when I was reading your clock? What was it at? 16? Was it at 16 yet?
$10,000 feels so long ago. Remember the days? People forget in March you could have bought under 4,000.
Could have. I know I got to buy in under 4,000. That feels good. Sorry for doxing my under 4,000 buy here. Honey, she's looking at me. She's very.
I mean, if you stacked early March, like that's going to pay for the kids' school, just those stacks alone.
You're welcome, kid. No, it was a fun way to start this rip. I was thinking about that a lot today. Thinking about mining a lot this morning. There's going to be some interesting content coming out in the mining world. Very excited. And speaking of the mining world, good segue into our first topic here. Taproot activation, as signaled by mining pools, hit a threshold of 55% earlier today. Taprootactivation.com, which was launched by Poolin, which is the second largest Bitcoin mining pool in the world. We discussed it last week. They have this initiative. Did we discuss it last week?
No, we didn't. It happened right after us. And also, a hat tip should go to Aaron Van Weerdum, who was a major proponent with Poolin to get this together.
Shout out to Aaron, OG, legend of the game, best technical writer and just journalist that I've come across in this space. And so, Poolin announced, I assume that we talked about it last week because it did happen last Thursday. Poolin wants to take initiative. There's a lot of conversation going on about how to activate Taproot. We've talked about it on this podcast many of times. We've discussed the fact that developers have presented activation routes, most popularly BIP8 and what is it, modern soft fork activation?
Well, there's BIP8, BIP9, and then there's modern, which is the combination, right?
Yeah. Yes. BIP9 has been used in the past. It was used for SegWit. I guess that's why people outside the mining community are wary of using it this time around, though. Even before SegWit, BIP9 was used to get soft forks activated without any controversy. Poolin again announced last week that they want to lead, I guess, from the mining industry perspective and let users know that they're going to be prepared and they're going to activate Taproot and validate transactions that use Taproot in the future. They created taprootactivation.com explaining what's going on, leading everybody to the GitHub page, describing the activation routes. And since this has happened, like I said, 55% of the pools, or 55%, pools representing 55% of the network hash rate, it's the correct way to phrase that, have signaled that they will activate Taproot. Poolin, interestingly enough, is partial towards BIP9, which is just like a versions bit.
Well, no,
signal,
so I mean,
of
course they are. I mean, if I was a miner, I'd be pro BIP9 because BIP9 just relies purely on miner signaling and hitting a certain hash rate support, while BIP8 has an override function where we kind of just force it through if the miners aren't signaling. What I think is more interesting is that Slush and Ant Pool are saying BIP8, and BTC.com is saying modern soft fork activation, which is the long route. Is weird also too, because there's like a little bit of incest there. Like BTC.com is owned by Bitmain, pretty sure, and Ant Pool is their other pool. So one of their pools is signaling BIP8, and the other one is modern. So actually, none of them are signaling except for Poolin. The other ones are just on this chart. They hit them up on WeChat or whatever, and they're on the chart. They haven't actually signaled anything except for Poolin.
Interesting.
But it's good to see all this conversation happening. This is what we want. We want the ball rolling. So definitely appreciate that. And one thing that everyone needs to realize is even when they are signaling, there's nothing to like lock them into it. It's more of a goodwill measure to signal your support one way or the other.
Yeah. The Coinbase signaling has no actual influence on the code. You're literally just putting a message in the Coinbase.
I mean, it does activate BIP9
socially signal
once a threshold's reached.
Yes, but you have to have BIP. Yeah. But the Coinbase message itself doesn't mean anything. Like F2 Pool played around with the Coinbase transaction message a bunch during the segment.
Yeah, they made a lot of money.
Right. So we'll be following this. Apparently 55% of miner support is there. Again, this shouldn't be as controversial as SegWit, but nothing should surprise you. This was pretty surprising this week. Second richest man in Mexico came out as a Bitcoiner and a fan of our good friend Saifedean Moose's The Bitcoin Standard.
Well, I love
billionaire.
The name the name of the Bitcoin Standard in Spanish is so much better.
El Patron Bitcoin.
So good. I love it.
Ricardo Salinas Pliego. He said, what was it, 10% of his liquid assets?
Yeah, and he's worth $13.8 billion.
Yes. So we don't know if that full $13.8 billion.
I doubt it. Heavily doubt, right?
Yeah. So I'd say in the $100 to $500 million range.
We're all fucking plebs. I've come to the conclusion these last couple of months that no matter what happens, we're just always going to be fucking plebs. These guys are just all leapfrogging us.
It's going to happen. It's inevitable, right? Especially at these prices.
No,
and you say these guys, like how many of these guys can leapfrog us is the question, which circles back to what started the conversation of tonight's rip. It's like, what does this liquidity crunch look like? At what point does it rear its head?
Well, I mean, there's an important distinction that,
right.
To all the billionaires,
they're not all self-custodying.
All the billionaire freaks listening to the podcast, like, not your keys, not your coins. You don't really leapfrog us
Right.
until you take custody.
That's very true. That's actually where my mind was going. Is like maybe the price won't rip because a lot of this is being rehypothecated. A lot of these billionaires are getting IOUs.
All the billionaires,
not only until
all the billionaires just own the same coins and they don't even fucking realize.
right. Wouldn't be surprised.
Wouldn't be the worst time.
What do you think this is? So we had this guy. We had Ricardo announce this week that he owned Bitcoin. Big fan of the Bitcoin standard. We had Arya Stark, who has
not a billionaire.
Not a billionaire, but famous actress. She was asking if she should invest in Bitcoin. Poll got a lot of interaction. I think the no's won, but she tweeted out later that she bought anyway.
The no's won, but Elon responded.
He did. What'd he say?
I don't know. He was like trolling her, but dude definitely has a big ass Bitcoin bag. Yeah, so she bought anyway, which is interesting. Good to see, I guess.
The blue checks are coming. I got a DM from a blue check mark today asking me if I saw Lil Yachty's coin offering.
Wait, whose?
Lil Yachty.
Was it a shitcoin?
Oh, yeah. Let's see.
Wait, a blue check reached out about it?
I think, well, so, is that Doc? I'm not going to
Don't dox the blue check. Is he a big blue check?
No. It's like an account that's been dormant since
so like it's a
2014.
little
I'm pretty
blue
sure it's a
check.
scam. Yeah.
Some of these blue
You see
checks have
Lil
like
Yachty.
12,000 followers or something. I don't even know.
Yeah, this guy has less than me. Peasant.
Never blue check. Fundamentally disagree with the premise.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It seems it's just from a heuristics standpoint. Hit your bingo board there. It seems that very rich people and famous people are starting to pay attention to Bitcoin and crypto again.
Fuck you!
This
I
is
can't believe you
huge.
say crypto. They're
I'm
paying
sorry.
attention to Bitcoin.
Not Lil Yachty. Lil Yachty's launching his own shit.
No, well, fuck him.
Don't buy it. On the Fiaz app, Fiaz.
Never heard of it.
Fiuz.
Never heard of it.
We are social money.
Don't look it up,
Is
freaks.
their tagline. Don't look it up. But go look up this. Our girl, Cynthia Lummis, TFTC alum.
Our queen.
Our queen is a good way to put it. Senator-elect Lummis out of Wyoming. She's been on the media trail
Been on
lately.
fucking
talking about
fire.
talking about her intention to educate her fellow members in the Senate about Bitcoin, and particularly its superiority as a store of value, particularly in the context of a treasury asset, which is fascinating. She's been killing it, dude. She's been going on these interviews, and they haven't even been asking her about Bitcoin. She's been bringing it up. You know what?
That's how you know she's a Bitcoiner. Like anyone brings up any topic, and we just always just pivot to Bitcoin. It's the tragedy of every Bitcoiner.
The Fox News interview question was, "What are your priorities when you get the Senate?" Very, very vague, open-ended question. It could go anywhere. It could say, "Hey, just want to get stuff done." It could have a very politician like trope back, something. We're just going to help workers, lower taxes, and something like that. But no, she went straight to like, we're going to get Bitcoin as a store of value in the U.S. and like states are going to be able to use it. And I'm going to educate my fellow senators about it. Shout out to Cynthia, our queen.
The crazy thing is, we have a senator now who controls her own keys. Like that distinction should not be understated. Like, we have all these billionaires, rich people coming in. The next step is, I want to see these powerful people, these rich people control their own keys, use their own node, become a proper Bitcoiner, right? And I see some similarities here with, the 2013 push, where there was all this push to get merchant adoption, but they were all just market selling for fiat on the other side. while now we actually see merchants running the full BTC Pay stack using their own node, hodling the coins. And that's, kind of what I want to see here. And it's amazing that she's so far ahead.
Yeah. It's incredible to see. And I wrote about it in the Bent a couple days ago. I think this takes the geopolitical game theory baked into Bitcoin. I think we're taking it to another level. We're entering a new level. We're up to this point. There's been a few representatives and members of the Senate who have defended Bitcoin in terms of saying it should be allowed to exist and U.S. citizens should be allowed to access and use it, particularly Emmer and Douglas. And Sherman.
Sherman's my favorite Bitcoin proponent because he hates it, but for the right reasons.
Right, he understands the power that Bitcoin wields against the bureaucratic bullshit that happens in our political system. But Cynthia arriving and taking it from a point of, hey, Americans should just be able to access this, and just defending the right to use Bitcoin. I think Cynthia takes it to another level where she's outright advocating for it and advocating that states should get involved with it and think about adding it to portfolios, particularly pension portfolios, Social Security, things like that, which is a whole nother level of discussion, which what brings with it, we're yet to find out. I'm sure there'll be a lot of pushback and heated discussions, but we have somebody not only defending Bitcoin and the right to access it in Congress, in the Senate now, but we have somebody actually actively advocating for it, which I think is huge. It's a big signal, having one of 100 senators in the U.S., 1% of the Senate, or excuse me, 2%, it's 50. All right, now I'm getting my...
It's massive. It doesn't matter what the number is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like nation state FOMO is we're close. We're really close. And the first few countries that start actually accumulating Bitcoin hard are going to reap massive benefits here. And you have the billionaires come in, and once you have these billionaires start talking about it, like, let's be honest, they pull a ton of fucking strings behind the scenes, and I think it's only a matter of time before we start hearing about the nation states. And the thing is, you won't hear about it right away while they first begin accumulating. You'll hear about it afterwards. I was talking with someone the other day, and it's like very interesting, like Stanley Druckenmiller, when he was, I don't know if I pronounced his name right, when he was talking about it on CNBC, it was almost like he wished it hadn't come up. It was like he was trying to quietly accumulate, and then it came up, and he didn't want to, not be honest about his position there.
Yeah, he begrudgingly was like, yeah, I like Bitcoin. I think you're an idiot if you don't. Yeah, and this is actually something we should bring up. I saw that you commented under one of Cynthia's tweets this week. It started a bit of a back and forth between you and Mr. Hodl, whether or not the U.S. government should hodl the confiscated Bitcoins from the hacker that stole them from the Silk Road.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I just tweeted straight at her. I didn't even comment on one of her tweets. I think, we have the U.S. government, the U.S. government seized this $1 billion worth of coins. It's actually probably more now. It's like 69,000 coins. So the freaks can do the math, but it was $1 billion at the time of seizure, and they plan on auctioning it like they've auctioned the last batches. And this might be the last chance for them to have like a very easy way to, have a stack without having to go on the open market. Now, some people did mention, so I actually go back and forth, right? Because I think that it creates like this perverse incentive for governments to seize Bitcoin, right? And I made a comment there that a government without a Bitcoin accumulation strategy is a government that is going to take your fucking coins when nation state FOMO kicks in. And I wholeheartedly believe that. And I think that that's one of the reasons why you have to be very careful about these custodians, because if they do need liquidity in some kind of FOMO event, like that's who they're going to knock on the door of.
Right. Take custody of your coins, freaks. It's just leading me down like a whole, I feel like we're having like an interview podcast here, but I'm thinking of a point that Lynn Alden brought up, I believe it was last week, talking about the prospects of a executive order 6102 happening, or something like that happening to Bitcoin. She brought up a good point that it's probably less likely that Bitcoin would get 6102 because gold, when that executive order was written, was pegged to the dollar. Dollar was pegged to gold, the other way around, which created a different dynamic than currently exists between Bitcoin and the dollar. I think it's not, the dollar and the Bitcoin are not conjoined in any way other than that people value Bitcoins in dollars today. They'll value it in goods in the future, but I thought that was interesting, an interesting variable in the threat of a potential seizure by the government of Bitcoin under the guise that it needs to write the currency.
Well, I mean, I think, well, first of all, it depends which country you live in, but I think like at different points over the, next 5 years, 10 years, we're going to see governments scrambling to try and seize assets and seize Bitcoin specifically, just governments scrambling to get their hands on Bitcoin. And everyone scrambling to get their hands on Bitcoin. This is part of the thesis. This is part of what we expect. The second thing is, like, you don't need a full-on 6102, right? Like, probably the more realistic scenario in the Western world, at least, is some of these tax proposals we see floating around, not even Bitcoin specific right now, to just tax unrealized capital gains, right? And you could imagine a situation where there's a Bitcoin specific tax because they just like trash us in the media, and then they hit you with a Bitcoin specific tax. And the easiest people to collect that from is everyone who's holding in a custodian, right? Like there's no resistance there whatsoever. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that. A full-on 6102 is a little bit more aggressive, but that might happen in certain countries and won't happen in others, right? And it'll be hard to enforce if you custody your own coins.
Yeah. I just thought that was an interesting, nuanced perspective on the 6102 thing.
Yeah, I mean,
you just front-loaded with bullish headlines.
I mean, like,
here.
yeah, but like, that's the thing, right? It's like we pay right now in America, we pay the highest taxes we've ever paid in history. So to say like a 6102 is less likely today, when really we're just getting 6102 every year, just not fully 100%.
That's
on like
true.
all of our assets.
That's true. Yeah. It's getting worse. Could you imagine if they taxed unrealized gains?
It'd be a fucking accounting nightmare alone. Just that, let alone any kind of moral justification.
I think you'd see like the first tax protests quite a while, if ever. I don't know if there's been a tax protest here in the U.S. You should probably know that. The mooch, he's considering getting into Bitcoin. The market became aware of the Skybridge, which is the hedge fund that the mooch, Scaramucci, what's his first name? I just know him as the mooch now.
I forget his first name.
My wife came in, Anthony Scaramucci, Tony Scaramucci. Skybridge is filing
the mooch
to the SEC, letting them know that they plan on buying Bitcoin and other digital assets, which is interesting. I think it's particularly interesting because these institutions basically have to beg to buy Bitcoin. I just find that beautifully poetic.
Agreed. But also one of the interesting things here is that they mention actually investing in Bitcoin companies, which I think like we're going to see that play out again with all these billionaires and these hedge fund guys, where they make the mistake of thinking that the investment in the companies is the safer investment than actually Bitcoin. It's going to take them like a couple of years to realize they fucked that up.
Haha. Have fun learning that lesson, guys. But we'll be here on the sidelines. Not the sidelines, but we'll be here just to laugh about the lessons we learned along the way.
Especially like there's going to be so much investment in shitcoin companies that they should have just stacked sats instead. They're going to regret it so hard.
Do you think consensus is foaming at the mouth right now? or drooling.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be
Drooling's
surprised if
probably better.
they're. I mean, I don't know, but I wouldn't. I think a lot of companies right now are looking for investment because it's so frothy, and a lot of these guys are looking to invest in places. But if you look back, historically, very, very few companies had investment rounds that have returned higher than Bitcoin has.
Yeah, it's going to be very hard to do that, but we shall see. The bullish news rolls on. Citi, one of their top analysts, wrote a report. I don't want to say projecting, saying the possibility of Bitcoin hitting six figures, not only six figures, above $300,000 is possible. Bitcoin Twitter went pretty crazy with that this week. I'm pretty sure the report is confirmed too. A lot of people were like, "Oh, we haven't actually seen it," but apparently it was going around to private clients of Citi.
And he's a Citibank executive. He's not just some like pleb.
No. It's
pretty crazy. This is like last cycle. These were like McAfee numbers,
Right.
and now it's like Citibank executive. Like if I walked into Thanksgiving dinner and I was like to my family, I expect Bitcoin to hit $318,000. They would laugh me out of the fucking room. I would never even say that. I would just be like, I think it's going to go up. As more people buy it, it'll go up. But meanwhile, the Citibank guy's just fucking throwing it out there.
Yeah, Thomas Fitzpatrick, to be clear, is a global head of the company's Citi FX Technicals Market Insight product. So yeah, he determined using technical analysis, which we're not a fan of here at TFTC, other than to laugh at sometimes, determined a target of $318,000 by December 2021. Here's the hoping. He's got the best TA out there because that would be pretty dope.
I'm cool with it. I'm cool if he's short a little bit. If we only hit like 200K by then, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, it could be off by 50%, or it'd be off by 100%, but like off by the target could be 50% lower than what it is,
Fine by me.
and still be very bullish. All right, rolling into software updates here, but before we do that, we've got a shout out from a very dear friend of the podcast, and I don't know why he's thanking us. We should be thanking him for giving us the opportunity to do what we do once a semester. Thank you to Pierre Rochard, Marty Bent, at Matt Odell, at Phil J. Bonello, at Vandrew CPA, at Vandrew ATTY CPA, for teaching Baruch College students about Bitcoin. You guys are all super generous. Well, Charles, who wrote the shout out, I assume it's Charles. Maybe it was one of the students. I was going to assume it was Charles. Thank you for inviting us. It's always a pleasure. And you're selfless. You take the paycheck you get from teaching that class, you donate it to charity. It's speaking 1 hour a semester at Baruch College is quite the pleasure. Shout out to you for putting together the curriculum and getting these great minds in that room.
Yeah, no, it is. I second that 100%. Truly a pleasure. We love you, Charles.
Yeah.
And that is pretty cool. I just found out that thing about him donating his salary to charity.
Right? He's a true man of the people. Just wants to
in
add.
hindsight, maybe he should have put his salary into Bitcoin and then donated it like after 5 years. But, it can't be perfect.
Charles, if you're listening, think about it. It's still early. We can lock it up. We can time lock it. Time lock it to block 840,000. We'll go to the next halving. Just time lock it till the next halving. Software updates. Whirlpool CLI version 0.10.9 has been released. If you're running that, think about upgrading. Go check out the release notes in the show notes. Electrum version 4.0.5 has been released. Anything major here?
Yeah, the new Mac OS update, Big Sur, broke Electrum, so you need this update if you're a Mac user.
Lovely. Thank you, Apple. Should we just break there to talk about what's going on with Apple?
Yeah,
or
we can. I put it at the end,
skip
but
down
yeah,
the list a bit?
Fuck them.
It's a pretty big issue that we should talk
How do
about.
you feel about this as a lifelong Mac user?
I feel cheated. I feel betrayed. I feel like I need to find an alternative and get used to using a new computer system and operating system, because this is pretty much untenable.
Did you run into the issue where they got caught? Like that day where like you couldn't open apps because their server was down?
I don't think so.
So this all got exposed because it turns out that Apple, with recent updates, has started everything you do on your computer, every program you run, it pings one of their servers before it runs. And because Mac is closed source, like people speculated, but no one knew for sure that this was happening. And then the server went down, and like millions of people around the world couldn't open, regular offline apps or whatnot because the server wasn't responding. So this is like obviously a major privacy risk. We have a write-up in the show notes that does a really good job of explaining the repercussions here. I mean, there's just massive tracking holes where they can track you. Apple says that it's for users' own safety, which is what you hear a lot of times with these things. But, at the end of the day, like no one should be really that surprised about this stuff. And this is why free open source software is so important.
Does Purism fix this?
Purism helps. I mean, the freaks know I like Graphene OS on the Pixel series. I haven't tried it on the 4A yet, but that's probably the best way to go right now on the phone side. And on computers, I really am liking Pop! OS, which is a Linux distro from System 76, which you can install on any computer. But what's really cool is System 76 actually makes like pretty nice machines. So like if you have a MacBook and you're looking for something like an upgrade that doesn't spy on you by design, then you should consider that. System76.com. I have 2 of their machines. They're fucking dope.
Tim Cook, you're fucking up. Tim Apple. You dumb bitch. Ruining Apple. Such a great company. Who knows it was him alone? Maybe there's some external pressures. It seems like they've been getting pressured by the intelligence agencies pretty hard.
I mean, to be fair, like I wouldn't be completely... Like I wouldn't be surprised if they had good intentions with this, even though it does add all this personal information on their servers. But once that information is there, even if they don't plan on using it maliciously, it can get hacked, it can get leaked. They might get compelled to provide it. So it doesn't even matter really what their intentions are. If there is that data blob available, then it can be exploited, and it probably will be. You have to assume it will be.
Well, this blog's making it seem like they were sending data to the CIA, NSA, FBI.
I mean, they definitely are when they get requests and whatnot. And with Snowden, we saw these companies had to bend the knee with a non-disclosure agreement. But I'm saying this particular so-called feature might not have originated for malicious reasons, even if it does end up getting exploited for malicious reasons. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because we can't verify their motives. So you just have to go with what the reality is on the ground.
Yeah, but it's coming out. Part of the blog says it sucks that they've let the NSA, CIA, your ISP et al. Slurp up the unencrypted pattern of life data off the wire for the last 2+ years, and they're still going to transmit the data, in parentheses, encrypted to Apple in real time, on by default in every single Mac.
It's fucked up.
So they've been setting pattern of life metadata, health statistics, I imagine, to these agencies to follow you. Maybe COVID tracking was used as an excuse to get it pushed through behind the scenes.
I mean, look, 100%. This is one of the reasons why we made our graphene push at the beginning of the COVID situation. Right. Look, this is all old Snowden news, and in my opinion, Snowden was the one who pulled the covers off, and at the end of the day, we can't trust closed source software and closed hardware. You can't. They'll tell us whatever they want to tell us, but behind the scenes, it's all just extensions of the governments.
This is true. And this is why we get back to our software update section. ThunderHub version 0.10.3 has been released. If you're running ThunderHub, go check that out. Sphinx chat, if you're running that. They've been releasing the test pilot version throughout the week.
I joined the tribe.
You joined the tribe. Welcome to the tribe. How's it feel?
Good. Feels good.
I'm loving the Sphinx app. Sphinx, not Sphinx. It's not a sphincter. It's a Sphinx.
I said last episode that I was going to use my own node. There's privacy concern if you use an existing node that's not tied to your identity, and Sphinx is going to be tied to your identity. So consider using a dedicated node for it. Just a Sphinx only node.
Yeah,
is the best practice privacy-wise, which is what I'm doing.
It's really cool what they're building, though. I love the boosting. I love the conversation going on in the Tales from the Crypt tribe. Shout out to our tribe. Shout out to the Sphinx team. Shout out Graham from Voltage. Shout out Ryan Gentry. Shout out Adam. Adam Carey's in the Tales from the Crypt Sphinx
That's
tribe.
pretty cool. I'm in his tribe as well, so it's a little bit incestuous.
It's an honor. You know what? It's a nice little community. It feels like we're onto something really cool there. One thing that got introduced to that we downloaded in our tribe this week was the bots. And the bots are run on the Lightning Network too. Like the person feeding the data on the other side could potentially charge sats for making a call on the bot. Like this.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Well, I mean, I knew it was being broadcast through the Lightning Network.
Yeah. Join our tribe chat, bro.
I'm in there.
I know, but join the chat.
I know.
You lurk.
I mean, I saw the price bot. I called the price bot. I'm upset that the price bot doesn't do sats per dollar. I've already made a suggestion.
You were not looking yesterday. They already made it.
Yes, there we go. You
can go into our tribe and go /sats, and you'll get how many sats per dollar.
I love it.
Right now it's below 6,000, which is pretty crazy. Massive. This is pretty massive. Tails version 4.13 is out. Updated the Tor browser. Updated Thunderbird. It's not really massive, but if you're running Tails version 4.13 is out. Officially released 2 days ago. On to some product announcements. Hodl, we had Max Keaton on a few weeks ago to discuss their new lending product is now available in the U.S., so U.S. citizens can use it. And they can use it because it's non-custodial all the way through. If you want to understand how that product works specifically, go listen to that episode recorded with Max. Very interesting applications that Hodl is building using Bitcoin and stablecoins, particularly to allow these lending markets to develop without any third parties, just people meeting at a marketplace.
And no KYC.
No KYC. Very important to mention.
But, if you do use a product like that, make sure you over collateralize a lot, just in case. Especially in these bill runs, we see large price movements, so you don't want to get liquidated in those large price movements.
Yeah, it's one thing you should be aware if you're relatively new to Bitcoin and you're probably at that stage where you're following the charts, trying to trade. You mentioned that you're not going to be able to trade. You're going to get your dick pushed in. You're going to lose your sats. But some of you are going to do it anyway. Just know that there are multiple 20 to 40% drops in the price on the way up to the all-time high. Typically.
Yeah, so
very volatile.
Right? I didn't miss the launch of the Sat Spot. It wasn't discussed in the tribe.
Bro,
are you in a side chat where you're
yeah, you just got it.
I just tested it, but I just scrolled up. Did I miss it getting added?
We talked about it last night. Or the night before.
How weird. I don't have those messages.
Product feedback. It has a dominance too. You can do /BTC dominance. Yeah, yesterday around 3:30 your time. Evan from the Sphinx team updated the bot.
I'm just scrolling. Well, anyway, glad to see it. It's fucking awesome. Maybe I'm missing messages.
We'll find out. This is all happening on the Lightning Network too, even the messages.
Maybe I had a routing error with some of the messages.
Interesting. That would be interesting. if you miss messages because of routing. Duly noted. To report back to the Sphinx team. This is also good to see. Swan has added Xpub support. Our boy Gigi getting to work pretty quickly. If you are a Swan user client, you can now upload. You're actually not uploading your Xpub. You're uploading your addresses, at least some of the addresses associated with that Xpub, so that you can preserve privacy by sending your coins to different addresses each time and just make that process more seamless on Swan. So if you're a Swan user, you can now DCA and then get your coins sent directly to addresses that you control and separate your UTXOs.
Yes.
Pretty big
Yes,
enhancement.
I mean, I think this is a pretty big deal. I've been looking forward to it for a while. Up until this point, Swan allowed you to auto withdraw, but it would auto withdraw to a fixed address. So you're reusing the same address over and over again. Obviously, this is bad for your privacy because someone watching the chain could link all of those payments together. And it has like a certain profile, right? It's like, okay, that's a Swan user and that's how much they've accumulated and they've been accumulating for this long. So now it'll be able to use a fresh address every time. They have implemented it basically, like Xpubs weren't really designed for this, but they implemented it in a way that's the most privacy conscious, probably the best way to do it, which is locally it's deriving the addresses and doesn't actually send the Xpub to the server. In practice, though, just to be really safe, I think best practice is really you like dedicate a wallet to Swan and that's your Swan wallet, whether that's a hardware wallet, whether that's Samurai. You just dedicate it to Swan. That's your Swan wallet. And then after that, you go into Whirlpool before you move the Bitcoin anywhere else. You like segregate the wallets. And with that in mind, KYC just being dangerous in general and people should avoid it. I kind of feel like this is the ideal KYC stack to me, where you auto stack and you auto withdraw. And ideally, to me, that stack looks like Samurai Wallet. You have a Samurai Wallet, a cheap Android phone, running Samurai Wallet, connected to your dojo. You give them your premix ZPub. You're auto stacking directly into the premix, and then you go into Whirlpool, and then you have your post-mix Whirlpool UTXOs that are a different XPub by design, and then you can send them wherever you want to send them. And I think like the only thing that makes that better is if they add Panem support, which they're planning on doing, and if Samurai adds auto TX0 support, where it just automatically whirlpools if it hits a certain amount. Like it'd be cool if they had like a special ZPub where any address that went there just like automatically went through Whirlpool.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is Swan set up in a way where you can send it to your address, but only after you hit a SATS threshold?
Yeah.
Say like a million SATS.
You pick the threshold, and then so it auto stacks. Once it hits the threshold, it auto withdraws to a fresh address, okay. And then you go into Whirlpool, and then you have Whirlpool UTXOs. Like as far as KYC stack goes, like that seems like the ideal. To me, it seems like the ideal setup.
Yeah, I agree. Shout out to Swan for getting that out there. Innovative, very privacy conscious. I love that simplicity of just not sending the XPub, but only a few addresses.
I mean, by a few, I imagine they mean like 100 or something. But yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine.
And then they just ask you if they need more addresses.
Yes.
But like if you're going to go like the hardware wallet approach, like I say, like you buy a cold card, you buy a ledger or whatever, and you just dedicated it to Swan. It's just like, this is my Swan wallet. And I think it's worth that, whatever, like a cold card is like $130, or I think like a ledger is like a little bit cheaper. Like that's nothing in the scheme of things. And you just dedicate that as your Swan wallet and your stack just goes there. Keep it segregated, just super easy to do.
Get on it, Swan users. The stack improves. It is KYC, but trying to preserve your privacy and give you the ability to do it yourself efficiently after you use their services. commendable. Interesting development in China around OKEX. Apparently they're going to reopen withdrawals starting soon. There's been rumors that originally there was rumors that they were hacked, that they lost funds, but then it became apparent that potentially the Chinese government was holding them up and forcing them to freeze their funds. The mining hash rate fell. Coinbase was announcing that hash rate fell because of OKEX having to withdraw theirs. So there's something interesting going on. There's some more China FUD basically at the end of the day. What's your take on the OKEX situation? I never like speaking with any authority on these topics because they always change on a whim. And
yeah, I mean, it does kind of feel like China FUD 4.0 or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like the most concrete rumor is that Starzu, the founder and CEO of OKX, got arrested, and they just paused everything while he was, bending the knee to the CCP, presumably. A couple of things to take from here is, first of all, they had their own mining pool. Hash rate completely evaporated, and they actually hadn't suspended withdrawals on the mining pool, suspended rewards on the mining pool. They only suspended withdrawals on the actual exchange, but that was enough to scare miners into other pools, which is bullish if it's bullish in a pre-better hash world, right? Where you're relying on miners to actually switch if a mining pool operator becomes malicious, and so that's good to see in practice. The second thing is the OKX has an exchange token, and this token absolutely tanked on the news that they were suspending withdrawals. And then over the last 2 days, it spiked. And then today, the press release comes out from OKX that they're opening withdrawals again. They plan on opening withdrawals again. They're completely solvent. Everything's good, and their personnel who was arrested has been returned to them, which is presumably Starzu, but they never said a name. And there's just a lot of fuckery here that can go on with these exchange tokens that people have to be aware of, right? Like, if they know that the withdrawals are going to tank it, they can preemptively short it or sell it. They control the exchange. They control the supply. A lot of it is held on their exchange to begin with. And they can preemptively buy it at the bottom before they announce anything. So there's a lot of fuckery in general, and it really amplifies third-party risk, like over just a regular custodian and over just a regular shit token. It's like a combination. It's like there's no way to self-custody a exchange token. There's no way to verify any of this shit, and they can just, run it up and down at their leisure.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a recurring theme. Will we ever shake the China FUD? Who knows? Probably not. It's fun. Just expect it. Expect these waves to come. Bitfinex is hopping out of the woodwork, pointing at Tether. China FUD's coming out of the woodwork. Blue check marks are tweeting about Bitcoin. Some vibes. Are we getting too hot too quick?
Nah, impossible. What is what is your thoughts on the hash rate thing? Because I think that's kind of interesting. Like, it's not every day. I don't remember ever really seeing a pool go to zero that quickly.
Ghash is probably the last example.
Well, Ghash was at 51, and they got hit, but then they fell to like 25 or something, and then they slowly bled.
They originally withered and died,
but they slowly bled after that, right?
Stakes are a lot hot. Stakes are a lot higher.
Yeah,
now.
This was like hard and fast. This was just they fucking got hit.
Yeah, I was actually on a podcast talking about Great American Mining earlier this week, and that question came up. So, like, the China FUD, talking, like, Brad Garlinghouse, that motherfucker, likes to go out and spread China FUD. The comptroller. The dude from Coinbase, he was spreading China FUD, saying that China controls Bitcoin and can 51% attack it. It's just simply not true. So you go through the continuum of the potential attacks via mining that would be employed. The first you think of is just actually having a collective 51% of hash rate and being able to 51% the network, which at this point seems pretty hard. You can get a few pools to team up, but that seems unlikely to me. So that scenario of just having a raw hash rate, 51% attack, doesn't seem likely. Then you have the scenario in which the CCP can make mining farms in China unplug, which is a bit scary, but the network would self-correct eventually. And I believe hash rate has become more distributed outside of China over the last 5 years particularly, so that attack may even be less effective than it could have in the past. And so that seems unlikely to me, and even if it were to happen, I think the network would survive. It would take a lump. And then beyond that is the scenario which we're talking about right now, is that the CCP goes to individual mining pool operators and forces them to either construct blocks a certain way or just not mine blocks at all. And that's the beauty of mining pools, is the individuals within those pools have free will and the free ability to move. Freedom of labor in the mining world is very fluid. You can move from one pool to another in minutes. So the likelihood of attacking Bitcoin mining from the pool operator perspective, even though a great majority of pool operators are in China, I still think the risk is low because the individual miners within the pool have a very high profit incentive to make sure they're getting Bitcoin for the hashes they produce, so they will move as quickly as possible.
And on top of that, we want to see Better Hash, which has now been folded into Stratum v2, get released, which kind of cures the main issue here, which the main issue is that the mining pool operators have the power to construct the blocks according to how they want to construct them. So if there's like a blacklist or something, or if they want to double spend someone, they have that unilateral power because they're the mining pool operator. In a Stratum v2 world, the individual miners that are directing their hash rate to the pool operators they get to construct the blocks. So it distributes that power and makes it way, way, way less likely. I would just like to add that I intentionally didn't talk about it when it happened, but I did post a hash commitment on Twitter and told people to remind me 2 weeks later, which of course, 8 a.m, 2 weeks later, Gigi DM'd me and was like, what is this about? So hat tip to Gigi for reminding me. I think like if you were to see some type of state Chinese attack or whatever, that's kind of what you would, I don't think it would be effective long term, but I think what you would see first is you would see like the rug pull of the hash rate that we kind of saw at the middle of the difficulty adjustment last time. And I guess like the main way to, so you rug pull the hash, and then when the difficulty adjusts down, and this is one of the reasons why the difficulty adjustment period is such a long period, so you can't like game it this easily, because we saw this kind of thing happen in Bcash land because they changed their difficulty adjustment to super short periods. So that's one of the reasons why you want it to be a longer period, because you can't game it that easily, but you rug pull the hash rate, and then when the difficulty adjusts down, then you start, fucking around on the mining layer. Doing empty blocks, reorgs, chains that aren't broadcasting. You hold on to them, block withholding until you release them and stuff, just to like fuck around and try and cause chaos. And in that situation, I think like the mitigation is if you see like a large hash rate pull, you should just be a little bit wary. And if you're a major economic actor, like require more confirmations. Like don't, add a little bit of a buffer on your confirmations, and then you should just be golden.
Yeah. No, it's interesting playing these scenarios out. That becomes an expensive attack.
It would be
though.
Super expensive attack. And I don't think it'd be effective long term, but there's something there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, got to flesh out adversarial thinking from Matt Odell. The type of thinking I'd like to see. Yeah, there's so much. God, can we destroy Brad Garlinghouse? Can we like reputationally ruin him? Not me and you personally, but just the freaks.
I mean, if we could, we would have already
collectively. But it's so disingenuous. And so, like, did we talk about that? The NYDFS? No.
Maybe eventually,
well, hopefully.
right? It'll catch up to him. But it just feels like they've lasted so much longer than I expected. They're just so good at the regulatory capture play and just like the revolving door of like bringing in lobbyists and shit. They're just so good at it. They're pros. It's just I find it hard to believe that they've lasted this long. It's amazing to me.
Did you see Brad's latest virtue signal about the environment?
No, what's this new one?
And this is, dude, you might have to move out of New York State soon. See the NYDFS mandate for climate conscious lending and investment in any company, bank, institution that's under the purview of the NYDFS.
What do they have to do?
They're bringing like climate wokeness to like investment. Like you have to invest.
Oh, not just Bitcoin companies.
No, all companies, but cryptocurrency exchanges were singled out in basically a roundabout way of saying, hey, think about proof of work's impact on the environment, which is, it's positive, but these people don't understand that. And I have a feeling they'll refuse to understand it too, to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm going to be here for that much longer, but I just don't. The bigger concern with the NYDFS is not necessarily just New York centric, right? Is that they are so powerful that it ends up making waves everywhere else as well. And that's what we saw with the bit license.
Woke capital's leaking into state governance. It's fucking crazy, man. It's astonishing how ignorant these regulators can be, too.
I think that's one thing that you've been on top of this whole time that you're probably absolutely correct about. We're going to get hit so hard about the climate fund. Like, it's just coming. Like, we have not gotten hit yet. It is. We get it occasionally from some, like, random blue check on Twitter or some, like, random talking point on, like, a random interview. But it's going to get hard and fast. Like, they're just going to start hitting us about it.
That's why, man the walls, freaks. Step up. Get the content ready. Get the facts ready. We're doing our best here at RHR, TFTC, Marty's been at Great American Mining. We're going to work hard to get in front of this narrative too, but it is coming like a freight train. The screeching is only going to get louder from here. And so is the clamping down on your ability to use Bitcoin in any sovereign, non-custodial fashion, especially if you are in the Netherlands where a Dutch exchange is now making you verify addresses, and they're doing this because they're being told to by the government. So you have to basically verify that you own an external address that you send your Bitcoin to from the exchange. So just basically a creeping of the travel rule.
So this is actually not even a travel rule yet. This is AMLD5, which...
Basically the same
I mean, the way Europe handled it, AMD5, is like it's a EU law, but each individual member country can enforce it how they choose to enforce it, and they can choose which organization in their country does it. So for some reason, the Netherlands chose the central bank, which it's just an interesting distinction that they chose them to handle it. And the central bank ruled that you have to verify these addresses. And this is something that we have talked about in the past per the travel rule and other regulations, is that this is the natural progression that we see it going in, where like these companies are able to basically take the liability off of themselves by making you promise them that this is your address. And then that way they can just put all the blame on you, whatever happens after that. They know that's your address, and then anything that happens after that is on you, instead of like you having some like quasi plausible deniability when you withdraw. And this seems like the natural precursor before you just completely block out self-custody altogether. One interesting thing to keep in mind is that the cool part about Bitcoin is that you can trustlessly verify ownership of an address by signing a message. It's a super cool feature that allows you to, without a third party, prove ownership of funds. That wasn't possible before. But they're not using that. They just want you to take a screenshot. So,
no, the blog post says or by signing a message.
But they'll just take a screenshot, right?
Yeah, they will take
Which
a screenshot.
Is crazy.
By requesting you to upload a screenshot from your wallet or signing a message.
Hilarious.
We understand that these additional measures cause nuisance for our customers, and we do not agree with the measures measures ourselves. So this is bitonic.nl. Therefore, we offer the opportunity to formally object to these additional measures in registration of this data. We will soon release a custom for intended specifically for this purpose. For the time being, you are invited to send complaints to privacy at bitonic.nl. So good on Bitonic for pushing back, at least. They don't like this either.
And none of these, I mean, look, as this happens, like in the beginning, there'll be some companies that bend the knee and think it's for their greater good to just comply. But ultimately, it's going to kill all these guys' businesses. Like, it's just hurting them.
And helping the bad people. Just let the good entrepreneurs build good products, and law-abiding citizens use those products. And you know what? Let them preserve their privacy and their freedom to interact with others along the way. How about that? How about that, Matt? Can we just get that? Is that possible in 2020?
No,
or are we getting the Great
we're not
Reset?
getting in 2020.
Are we getting the Great Reset?
Bitcoin's
You ready?
the Great Reset, and damn right we're getting it.
Yeah, Justin Trudeau mentioned the Great Reset by name today, or this week, excuse me. You had Lori Lightfoot, whatever her name is, in Chicago, mention the New World Order. Are these
Build back
people?
better, Marty. Build back better.
We're building back better with Bitcoin freaks. Look around. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm pretty sure your antennas are tuned to what's going on with this overt power grab by the kleptocratic elite that like to think they run the world. But yeah, the New World Order wants to build back better to initiate their Great Reset or see the Great Reset through. So be aware. It's a communist view of the future where you won't own any property, but you'll be happy. You'll be eating bugs.
What the fuck is with that, man? That is crazy. What did that come? That came out from
2016.
the World Economic Forum or whatever posted that.
Yeah,
right?
they're the big perpetrators of the Great Reset. Just accept it, freaks. You know what? Get your COVID-19 flu shot, whatever it is. Smoke your vape pen. Just close your fucking eyes. Go to
So
sleep.
they're gonna start. The vaccination passports are coming.
Yeah.
When I said that we had a very short time to travel, like a year ago, didn't mean this short.
You weren't joking. You didn't think it would happen this quickly?
I'm glad I traveled as much as I did, but I did not travel enough.
Yeah. And guess what? We're just on to the section of news that makes us angry. Chainalysis is double dipping in contracts. They launched an asset realization program for government agencies and insolvency practitioners.
Did you stop because of me?
It's just basically help. Is this just like, I'm just trying to gauge what this product is? Or
Oh, okay. So
find stolen Bitcoin.
well, the hand movements I was making is because my dog is like growling at me from outside of the door. The chain analysis basically is at first they help the governments seize the assets, and then they will help them manage their seized assets and sell them for them and do that whole process. So, we were talking about earlier about perverse incentives, which happen all throughout our government. We have tons of perverse incentives. It's one of the reasons why our governments are so broken. But now you have this perverse incentive here for chain analysis, just another one. So first, the perverse incentive was chain analysis lobbied governments to get them to make exchanges and services, use their service to begin with. Then they gave contracts directly to the governments to help them seize assets. And now once they seize the assets, they will take a VIG to help them unload those assets. For the greater good of Bitcoin, I'll tell you too. Fuck them.
Yeah. Right? And I've met with some employees at Chainalysis, and I like them personally. But from a company mission perspective, again, what the fuck? Like, you're just sucking teat. These governments are not good either. Like, they don't bring good to the world. They just subjugate their citizens and let the criminals get away. Fuck these people. Chainalysis, if you're working there, what are you guys doing? Come on. Binance is suing Forbes, by the way.
We gotta be careful what we say about Binance.
Yeah. What if Forbes released apparently what was an internal doc that described how they evaded international regulators and were able to...
which in my book, I call that innovation.
Yeah, right? And say they're distributed. So basically, the blueprints that allow them to geographically and jurisdictionally position themselves to remain somewhat inoculated by regulators around the world.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's about using like holding companies and shell companies and shit, which is what we know about all of these businesses, and especially in the Bitcoin world. You know, if you want to innovate, that's kind of how you have to handle it. If you're a centralized company, so I mean, it's kind of fucked up on the part of the Forbes writers for not only did they expose all this, but they were kind of like asking for regulators to get involved. You know, they were kind of like being tattletales, they're like ratting them out. So that's kind of fucked up in my mind, but also like fuck you Binance for suing them, right?
Snitches get legal stitches.
Snitches get sued, like just does not have the same kind of ring to it.
It does not. U.S. military is buying precise location data from third-party apps, so be aware. Muslim prayer app with over 98 million.
Yeah, this
downloads.
article is mostly anti-Muslim focused.
Yeah,
like Quran apps and shit, and like an app that shows you which direction is Mecca because you need to pray in that direction. And this is just another example why, you know, free open source software that's not designed to just track everything you do. And just on the simple note, you know, don't install as many apps on your phone. Be careful what permissions you give to apps. Turn off location. They might not actually turn it off, but you can at least click the button. It's better than not clicking it.
Be directionally aware so you know where Mecca is and you don't need an app to help you find it, you know?
Like the good old days.
Right? Yeah. You think your grandfathers were using apps to find Mecca?
But
I don't
the
think
big
so.
one is usually the weather apps, because the weather apps, you know, ask for location so they can tell you what the weather is in your current location. So like really people, even if you don't want to go full tilt, like I recommend to go graphene, at least just disable location on your phone. Disable location. You can just toggle it off. If you need to use like a GPS or something, then I guess toggle it on for that moment in time when you do it, and then toggle it off. Just usually have location disabled. It's like the single easiest improvement you can make, and it does have a significant improvement there.
Yes. Do not get tracked by these third parties. They're tracking.
You will still get tracked,
We've warned
but
you.
you'll
You've been
reduce
warned.
the tracking by doing that.
Yes. Yes. Speaking of open source and dope hardware, we mentioned Purism earlier in the episode, but we did not talk about Librem 5 begin shipping, did we?
Right. Yeah. So Purism makes my two favorite Linux computer manufacturers, boutique computer manufacturers, are System 76 and Purism. Purism is more expensive, but they go more hardcore on the privacy side. I don't think you can go wrong with either. But now Purism is also releasing a phone, which has been hyped for a while, that they built from the ground up to be privacy conscious, and it includes their own Linux-based OS on it. So you're not going to be able to use any Android apps or anything like that. I think these are nice things to see, but at the end of the day, like if you buy it as a fuck around thing. Like, don't buy it expecting to have like a really usable phone. I think it's still too early there, and they're basically just beta testing on customers, and they're like alpha testing, like even pre-beta, and it's going to be very wonky. But regardless, good to see they're shipping.
Yeah, I like that. It's I might get a Purism computer after all this Apple news.
Get a System 76, bro.
All right, maybe I'll get both. Test them out.
It's the closest.
It's a good rip.
The closest like consumer experience I've ever seen on a Linux computer.
Really?
Yeah, because especially with what we do on the Bitcoin side of things, when you're like trying to stream live and you need like reliable communication tools and stuff. Like with Linux, it's like every day you wake up and there's like another issue that you have to solve before you can get to work. And the battery life usually fucking sucks. But with System 76, like it legit feels like a proper consumer product. Like it feels like something that someone can move from OS X, from Mac over to it reasonably. And actually there's a bunch of UX pros that they might enjoy more than Mac. So they don't just feel like they're giving up convenience completely in the sake of privacy and security. And the hardware's nice. It's
Okay.
just like good quality hardware.
You're convincing me. You're convincing me.
Very happy with it. Like I said, I have 2 machines.
You're very convincing. This is a quality rep. This is an early rip. Thank you for getting up early, Matthew.
I was already up. I wanted. I didn't wake up specifically for an 11:30 rip, Marty. But you know, if it was a happy hour timed rip like usually, then you know the freaks would have had more of a whiskey induced Matt than they did for this episode. But it was a good rip.
I think the Cerveza induced Matt was a good one. Freaks, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. A lot going on. Bull market, maybe here, probably
It is fucking here, Marty.
It's already hard to think. It's only going to get worse from a thinking perspective, the ability to think perspective, as the price gets more volatile. Stay safe out there. Don't make any rash decisions. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for the shout out. Shout out to Charles and the students at Baruch College. If you guys are liking this, please subscribe at your local podcasting platform. Leave a review. Tell your friends. I'm trying to get that quality information out. Tell them to sign up for the Bent, the SAT Standard. We got more content on the way.
Love you all. Bullish as fuck. We're just getting started. Don't pull your fucking foot off the pedal. Keep stacking.
Definitely keep stacking. Peace and love, freaks.